All right, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of the Eynelys Show. I am your host, Eynelys Garcia. I am so excited to have you guys here today because today is the Eynelys Show Halfway There special. You know the thing. You know the thing. So we have all been waiting for this. I'm so excited. We have a fantastic panel for you guys today. Before we get started, I want to remind you we now have a website, so you can go to eynelys.com and subscribe to our newsletter to find out when we're having shows like this. And please like, share, and subscribe. It's totally free and the best way to help us grow. Okay, so I am so excited to introduce our panel today. First, we have mi amiga. She is a regular on the Eynelys Show. She is the executive producer of the Dore Show, a comedian and political commentator. Please welcome the amazing Stef Zamorano. Stef, how are you?
Great. So great to be here. And yes, everybody knows I'm now fully registered for the People's Party.
Yes. And next we have from the People's Party. He is the national director of the People's Party, co-founder. Please welcome Nick Brana. Nick, how are you?
Hey, all. So thrilled to be with you. And Stef, amazing about the registration, official registration in California.
Yeah, I felt I had to. You know, I can't keep talking about third party, and have both of your cell numbers in my phone. And I know I'm going to speak with you soon. So I was like pulling the trigger, taking a little tech time out of my day. And like, hey, by the way, the directions on the MPP website about how to register in California, really great. User friendly. Did it. No problem.
Nice. Go team.
That's awesome. Our next guest is a congressional candidate in Florida's 24th district. We just recently had her on the show to talk about her run. Please welcome Christine Olivo. Hi, Christine.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here and very, very ready.
And last but not least, he has been doing some amazing coverage, not only on Force the Vote, but on the Biden administration and everything that's been going on. From the Dive, please welcome Jackson Hinkle.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited for this conversation. And I, too, am a registered member of the People's Party. So we got a little crew in here. We got a crew in here. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. Thank you for being here. Okay, guys. So let's get right into this because as we know, after this, the Dore Show is going to go live. So Stef has a limited amount of time and we want to take advantage of it. So let's get right into it. So we want to talk about Biden's first 50 days in office. That's the first thing I want to talk about.
They've been great.
They're so good. It's the best.
Spoiler.
Just winning left and fucking right. We're winning so hard.
Be better, bad, Buck Billy. I think isn't that Build Back Better Billy Boy? That's it. That's the new Dem Raj here.
Alliteration. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So the first segment I want to use to talk about, because we're going to get into all the problems, trust me. But I want to use the first segment to talk about what are the things that were included in the stimulus bill, because the stimulus bill is a huge part of what we're going to be talking about. So what are the good things within that? And what are the things that we can say this is going to help people? So I have a list of a few things that I think are important. We obviously don't have time to talk about every single thing that he's done, but we are going to touch on the major things. So I'm going to go through this list and then you guys can tell me your thoughts. So the best thing, in my opinion, in the stimulus bill was the $3,000 child tax credit. That is going to be cutting childhood poverty in half. That is no small thing. It needs to be acknowledged. I will say we should be talking about cutting poverty out completely. So is this enough? No, but it is significant and would lift a lot of people out of poverty. So that is something that is in the bill that I think is good and important. Other things that were in the bill, we're going to be getting a $300 a week unemployment extension until September. As someone who's on unemployment right now, I can tell you that while we will, in the second segment, we'll get into why this isn't enough, but it's something and it does help. And there's a lot of people like myself who without this would be SOL right? So it is something that's coming in. It is a Band-Aid on a major wound, but it is a Band-Aid at least through September that is going to help us get a little bit closer to normal. Another thing we're going to be receiving is the infamous $1,400 checks. We're going to talk in the second segment about the problems with this check and, how it was means tested in a ridiculous way. But in this segment, I want to focus on the positive. This is going to help a lot of people pay the rent, pay the bills that they're behind on. And for families, they could be getting, I believe it's up to $3,600. So that's substantial. And that's going to help a lot of people. And then we're also putting in state aid and funding for vaccines. There have been problems with the rollout of the vaccine, but as far as the speed, considering everything that's happening, I think we're doing okay as far as the speed of this, considering how many people have to get vaccinated and everything that's been going on. So those are the major things that I want to touch on that I think will help within this stimulus. And so maybe I'll start with you, Nick. Let's talk about, this is bare minimum. I actually think this is below bare minimum, but this will help a lot of people. So can you talk about why it's so important that people get this aid and what is the struggle that people are going through right now?
We're seeing people go through a kind of struggle that is unheard of in this country since the Great Depression. And that's why, the last time we had this, we had an FDR who presented like a New Deal type proposal. FDR, in his first 100 days, he convened a special session. He actually coined the term 100 days. He convened a special session of Congress when he got into office. And from his first day, Congress was basically a printing press of bills, nonstop. They were actually putting out, and the scope of every single one of those major programs, like Tennessee Valley Authority, was larger than what we see right now, and that's the kind of, response that was necessary, that is necessary today. And people are wondering, where is that going to come from today? From the moment they got into office, they started saying, oh, well, it's going to be 2 months until March, until we have something available. How does that feel? It's like, no, the house is burning now. We need the water now. We need we need to put out the fire now. We don't have 2 months. How are you going to tell that to someone who's already several months behind on their mortgage or on their rent, and they're only holding on to their house? They're only holding on to shelter because of the government, continues to kind of push forward the moratoriums on evictions and foreclosures. How are you going to say that? How are you going to say to someone who can't, feed their children and can't feed their families that they have to keep standing in bread lines? How are you going to say to people who, like in Texas just recently, just have their entire infrastructure destroyed, water, sewage systems? How are you going to tell people like that they just kind of need to wait? There's no emergency. And the more than 50 million unemployment claims, and so many people who are still unemployed as a result of that. So, this was very much a Band-Aid. It is below minimum, and it doesn't compare whatsoever to the scale of what was done the last time we had a crisis like this. And that puts into perspective where the two parties are right now and how corporate captured they are.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And Jackson, I want to bring you into this because you've done a lot of coverage. You have some great videos. Everybody check his channel out. You've done a lot of coverage about what Biden has done in his first 50 days in office. It's almost like you were preparing for this show. So because you've done so much coverage on this, can you tell us about, based on your research that you've done, how important is it that people get these unemployment benefits? They should definitely be more and longer than September, but at least through September, because some people are saying, you don't need that. Can you help explain to us, based on your research, why it is that we do need this unemployment help specifically? And also, what do you think we can do to reform unemployment? And do you think it should be reformed? Because right now, only about half of the people who are actually unemployed receive unemployment benefits. So what are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question, and thank you for the kind words about my work, my show. But yeah, I mean, like I was unemployed for a period of the pandemic as well. I was working at a local coffee shop, and it was like right when I started my show, and I got let go in the middle of the pandemic just because I'd worked there for 2 years. There weren't enough hours, and they just had to let people go. So a lot of these situations are really out of the control of workers in this country, and they're being placed in a situation now where cost of living is still as ridiculously high as it always has been in states like California, New York, really all across the country. And the government isn't there to actually provide support. Most governments across, the world are guaranteeing 80 to 95% of lost wages to the workers of their countries who are unemployed. In the United States, you'll be lucky if you get 50% of your lost wages, even if you're eligible and you qualify for unemployment benefits. Now, the crazy thing about unemployment, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but at the start of the pandemic, with a Republican-controlled Senate and a Republican in the White House, they passed $600 weekly unemployment benefits. That eventually trickled down to $400 weekly unemployment benefits at the end of Trump's presidency. And now we have Democrats in the House, Democrats in the Senate, and Democrats in the White House. But for some reason, they thought it would be necessary to actually further, cut unemployment benefits to $300 per week. So we've actually seen more austerity from the Biden administration on unemployment benefits than we saw from Trump and a Republican-controlled Senate under the leadership of Mitch McConnell. So obviously, unemployment benefits are extremely necessary, but not everyone gets them. You could say the same thing about Section 8 housing, about food stamps, right? Even if you're eligible for these things, you probably aren't going to get them. You'd be lucky if you do. So it's a massive issue. I happen to be of the belief that if you qualify for a government program, like a welfare program, a social safety net program, then you should actually be entitled to those benefits. It's not like you qualify, you're eligible, and then 20 years down the line, you get a Section 8 housing voucher. That's not how it should work. Our social welfare system in the United States is pathetic. It's a joke. And the Democrats are now exacerbating how terrible it is by further cutting, the amount of benefits that people receive in the middle of a pandemic and economic crisis. Meanwhile, in his first month in office, Joe Biden passed over $450 million worth of Raytheon weapons deals. So that just shows you some of the priorities of this administration, of the Senate, and of the House of Representatives. And it's really pathetic and it's embarrassing.
And this is the good half, guys. So, Stef, I want to bring you in on this. A lot of people by now are familiar with your story and Jimmy's story of, what you guys went through with medical bills and all that stuff. But, talking specifically about this stimulus, I have witnessed, followers of your show that send you a super chat telling you the hardships that they're going through. And I actually find it very touching because you're always so receptive and you always connect with them so much. And you can tell that you genuinely feel sorry that they're going through this. Would you mind sharing with us just maybe one or two stories that you've heard from you guys as followers about the hardships that people are going through right now?
Oh, that's very painful that people reach out to us, in need, or, somebody will share that their wife died from leukemia, and people will share, the sorrows of their loss in their family, and it's such a daily thing. Pain is daily. But as you get older, I think you start recognizing it, that how devastating it can be. And a lot of people are in pain right now. And, in the meantime, as they're all in pain, I think everybody here on the panel all see that the welfare state is alive and well for corporations. Alive, it's thriving, it's fantastic how well they're doing. I mean, how many articles do we need to read time and time again about the abundance of wealth that has been garnered by the top 1% and the gross inequities of the safety net programs, that we're talking that it's going to cut, poverty levels for children, 50%. Why aren't they telling us how many children are left behind? Why aren't they examining that heartache, that heartbreak? That there's a child in America that does without, with the amount of abundance and wealth, that it is grotesque in the level, it's just overwhelming. And then you have somebody like Nancy Pelosi, and she comes out and she says, we're still fighting for the 15. We're still fighting for the 15. I want to know, who is she fighting for the 15? So the amount of despair is people losing their jobs, people not paying rent, people not knowing what they're going to do, and they have a child that they're caring for, that they have an elder parent that they're caring for. Did I hear something about a jobs program last night from Biden? Did I hear a jobs program? Because where is that jobs program that Obama should have provided to the country? But with that said, with that sorrow has become galvanized a lot of people that otherwise may have been asleep. It's galvanizing students. They're seeing what their parents are going through. When you see these people on, say, Chuck Schumer says, we've got to let parents go back so they can earn, so their kids can learn. And you're like, oh, they're so clever with what you're doing. They're so clever with these. So I think I have hope. I know in all of this despair, I do have hope, but my hope does not lie within the Democratic or Republican Party.
Yeah, fair enough. Christine, you live in an area that has a lot less benefits than other states in the country. Can you tell us about, for example, the minimum wage in Florida is much lower. I was just watching last night, John Oliver did a piece on unemployment, and he touched on how they completely slashed Florida's unemployment benefits to the point where at one point it was like $50. And the guy was like, we only had 69,000 people on unemployment. And it's like, oh my God. And you're giving them like nothing. And they put exams and tests and like all these roadblocks in the way. And they were saying how it was essentially designed to stop people from applying for unemployment. They wanted to de-incentivize them. Whatever. You know what I mean? So how do you feel about that as someone who's running for Congress in Florida? And what would you do to help? What do you think about having a federal unemployment system as opposed to state by state?
Great question. I think there should be a federal unemployment system. Today, I had someone, he's a Spanish speaker. He's not a citizen yet. He came into my office. I work at a tax office, but we help anybody. Like, it doesn't matter, whatever you need. So he walked in, he's like, I've been trying to apply for unemployment literally almost a year. And he's like, can you help me? And we said, sure. So I pulled out my laptop, we sat there and said, okay, we're gonna have to call. I was on hold for 1 hour and 43 minutes.
Yep.
And she's like, I see where you tried to apply, but you didn't finish. Okay, he didn't finish because he's English is not his first language. So, where are the people there? That's one roadblock. Number two, he now just got a job. So they're trying to say that, oh, he may not be eligible. Wait, hold on a second. He's been unemployed for a year. He lost his job because of COVID. He desperately needs the help. He takes care of his parents. He's been begging for the unemployment. She saw that he tried to put in 2 applications. She saw the system right there. So you see, he's been trying. She's like, you're right. Let's see what we can do. So we go through the application, and now we have to wait. And we have to call back, and we have to change his effective date, because it's not today that he was unemployed. It was a year ago. So, I'm so frustrated by the system, number one. Number two, it's like $125 a week. $125 a week. That's without what the federal government is giving. Everyone on social media right now is calling Joe Biden Money Bag Joe. Money Bag Joe. Like, literally, they have like rappers with like money, and then they change the face to Joe Biden. My friend sends me all of this just ratchetness, right? And I'm just like, but you know what? I laugh, of course, and then I say, that is so sad.
Yeah,
that is so sad that our community thinks that 1,400 is what they deserve. For them to nickname Joe Biden Money Bag Joe, no, you don't understand. You deserve so much more than this. This is not what you're worth. First of all, it is our money. It is your money, your hard-earned work that keeps everyone employed in the White House, in the Capitol, on Capitol Hill. We keep them employed. You deserve so much more. And so it breaks my heart to hear everyone rejoicing over this. And I understand it. They're so desperate, they need it. But we have to be able to look past our desperation and say, this is not what we deserve. We deserve a better system, and it doesn't come from the federal level. And it is a shame that it's $300 a week when we first started out with $600 a week. And it is a shame that Republicans are saying, oh, they're never going to want to go to work. Hold on a second, because when y'all barely ever show up to vote, you barely ever show up to do anything. All you have to do is get in your fancy car, put on your nice suit, and go in and fight for us. You barely do that. And you want to talk about all the common folk that don't want to work? We've been working our whole lives. We don't want to die from COVID. That we want to stay home and protect our families. This isn't about not wanting to work. We don't want to die. And we know that the first ones to go are the people that look like me. So don't say we're lazy. Don't say we don't want to go to work. Oh, we're not going to raise the unemployment because, they're just never going to go to work. Somebody posted that on Facebook the other day. I'm having these business owners, they're saying none of their employees want to come back to work. What do you think we should do about it? Why don't we go look at these companies and see, are they protecting their workers? Stop thinking that it's because we don't want to work. Maybe the business owner needs to start giving their employees PPE. How about that? Why is it always the workers' fault? So, I'm sorry. I'm not calling anybody Money Bag Joe. This isn't what we deserve. This isn't what I deserve or my family. And we need to get out of that mentality of thinking, oh, $1,000 will get us through. My friend owes $12,000 in rent. Where's the program to cancel the rent debt? You keep putting these moratoriums, which are great.
Right.
But where's the program to then say, all right, this is how we're going to help them pay down that debt? Or why don't we talk about, have the landlords already been paid? Have they gotten cash from the federal government to cover their expenses? Are they going to get paid twice for this apartment? Like, let's talk about these things. And your Stef is right. Where are the jobs? Where are the jobs? Number one, working from home until everybody's vaccinated. Working from home that I can apply to, that I know that I will have a guarantee. Where are they? We have a lot more to talk about. I don't want to hear anybody calling Joe Money Bag Joe, period. Enjoy the money that you get. I know it's going to start dropping like this weekend. Enjoy the money. Do what you need to do. Pay your bills. Honestly, if it were me, I'm just being real, I would spend that money on food and making sure that my family is safe. If anyone needs to pay, go to a doctor, whatever, Don't just start paying off all these credit card debts because at the end of the day, they don't care about you. You need to make sure that you can survive. So with that money, I just ask you, please stock up your refrigerators, get the toiletries, get the things that you and your family desperately need. Make good decisions, but know that you deserve more.
I can't wait to have you in Congress. All right. So before we move on to the problems with the stimulus, does anybody else have anything to say on the good stuff? I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be, the good stuff.
This is the good stuff.
No, this is the good stuff. All right, you guys, this is the best we can do. Okay, it's not our fault. It's what we've got to work with.
Okay, I'll celebrate the package for the kids. I'll celebrate it. I think it's awesome. I've got 2 children, and honestly, they're expensive. So yes, celebrating it.
Yes. All right, anybody else have anything to say before we move on? Okay, cool. Okay, so now let's talk about what we're all really here to talk about, which is why we're pissed off. So there are a lot of problems with this stimulus package. Like almost everything in it could either be better or just needs to be implemented altogether. So let's talk about some problems. So yes, we are getting a $1,400 stimulus check. Joe Biden promised us $2,000. I don't care what anybody says. He said 2,000. He didn't say 1,400 plus the 6. He said 2,000. Okay. He promised us 2,000 out the door immediately. It's been 3 months. It is not a recurring stimulus. It is a one-time check. When other countries like Germany have received, their citizens have received over $30,000 by now from the government since all of this started. Can you guys imagine? And we've gotten 1,800. And we've had to beg for that. So there's that. Unemployment, Christine sort of touched on this. It was supposed to be 400. Now it's down to 300. And I just want to remind everybody, like Christine said, last year when under a Republican, we got 600. There's no $15 minimum wage. That's one of the things that hit the hardest for us because this is literally what Biden ran on. And the Democrats just completely caved on making that happen. There's no public option. In fact, we don't even talk about a public option anymore. Remember when Joe Biden used to say he was going to give us a public option? Forget about that. We didn't get the Medicare for All vote because the squad was focusing on, they said they had a strategy, right? And their strategy was, we're not going to force the vote on Medicare for All because we have certain things that we're trying to get, like committee seat assignments and a $50 minimum wage. Well, they got no new committee seat assignments. AOC and Katie Porter were both denied. And now there's no $15 minimum wage.
I do think that's funny. Go on.
Yeah. So no, that was literally the end of
they got off the committee. That makes me think one thing. One, they already had it out for AOC to get off that committee. They already had it out for Katie Porter. Katie Porter was stirring the shit in Congress as often as she could. And she obviously said, no, I'm doing it my way. I'm going to grandstand. I didn't hear anything. Now, correct me. I'm sure anybody can. I didn't hear Katie Porter come out once for force the vote. Am I wrong? Did she?
I didn't hear her either.
I didn't see anything. So she loves taking those other, anything that to grandstand. And then she got pulled from that committee. I was told there was some stuff going on behind back doors, and that was called strategy. And I've heard that word strategy a lot right now. I've heard people say it's called strategy. You mean bending over the American public? That's the strategy.
Nick, can tell me a little bit, what do you think about this is, and these things are why I say this bill is below bare minimum. What are your thoughts and feelings on essentially the Biden administration lying to Americans and betraying them?
I mean, I think that what stands out the most is something that Jackson said, and Ilhan Omar said it too. And that's the fact that under a Democratic administration with a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House, we're getting less aid, less help in terms of unemployment, in terms of direct assistance, because it's that we got 1,800 when Trump was president, and you combine the two stimulus. And so, the public option, even the promises that he made, and so we as progressives are fighting for what the majority of Americans want. Medicare for all, free public college, a guaranteed jobs program, a basic income. Even the promises that Biden said the things that he said he would do, lower the age of Medicare to 60, a public option, the $15 minimum wage. He abandoned even those promises, which are not good enough. And can I say also what a compromise a $15 minimum wage already is?
Yes, it should be 25 minimum.
That emerged, the $15 minimum wage emerged in like 2012. So that long ago, it's already lost more than 12% of its value. Not to mention the fact that it still represents a decline, a decrease from what we should be making if the minimum wage had actually kept up with productivity, which it would be about $25 an hour right now. And so we're already, and the implementation timeframe was another 4 years until 2025. So like the proposal for the $25 minimum wage was, or for $15 minimum wage was already an insult. It was already an insult to working people. You can't live off of the minimum wage as it is now. There was a study done that showed that in no city in America can you have a 2-bedroom apartment on the minimum wage. Nowhere in the country. So we live in a country where they have literally set the minimum wage below what it takes to survive, to have shelter. So that tells you with the kind of economic calculation and the callousness that's being made, and that's coming primarily now from the Democrats. And so I think that's what stands out the most, is that was already such a compromise. And all of the Democratic Party claimed that they believed in it. The squad, Biden, Kamala Harris, everybody ran on it. In the Democratic platform, everybody says they support it. But when it comes time to do it, they have all the power and they didn't do it. They listened to this, completely unelected parliamentarian that they can overrule about how they couldn't do it. Kamala Harris said she wasn't going to do it. The White House put no pressure on it. Biden and the squad, unfortunately, being, trapped in the confines of this party, they could have, like Manchin, they could have fought for it and put their foot down, but they didn't. And this is what the party does. This is why the Democratic Party needs to be replaced. This is why we need a People's Party.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I learned in like middle school sometime, about supply and demand, right? So the idea is, if they give us a minimum wage, right? They're thinking that maybe we can afford a place. Then we wouldn't need affordable housing, right? And so the affordable housing contracts that they've given to all their buddies with government money would then go down the toilet, right? You can't just you can't see everything, what's on the surface. You have to look beneath. There are so many affordable housing developments popping up all over the country. The federal government is giving so much money to developers. They outsource these developers. Real estate is a hot commodity. Now, if everyone has $15 minimum wage, it changes the bracket, right? So now people will probably be able to afford regular, or maybe they'll buy their own, and then they won't go into these affordable houses. So you have to understand, the government makes money off of keeping us oppressed.
And poor.
Yeah, poor.
Yeah.
Jackson, I want to bring you in on this. So yesterday I interviewed Omar Fernandez, who is also an advisory council member of the People's Party, and he is the president of the American Postal Workers Union of Vermont. And so we were talking about, what it's like at the post office, why we should support them. And we were also talking about what happens within the Democratic Party. So, and I actually talked to you about this as well, Christine, when you came on my show. that there's something that changed, right, from when AOC was running, because I do believe that she has the same policy goals as us, but something has shifted within her to where she no longer feels empowered to fight. She feels like that's not an option somehow. And what came into that conversation was, and this is something that Brianna Joy Gray talks about too, is at the end of the day, let's give to AOC that she has good intentions, right? At the end of the day, intentions don't matter if you vote along the same lines as the corporatists. So there is something, and there is that saying of, you don't change the Democratic Party, it changes you. So something happens, and I can't pretend to know what it is, I'm not there, but something happens there where they literally paralyze people who once thought of themselves as warriors. And something is going on there where they feel like they can't do anything. And they feel so terrified to speak up. So can you tell us a little bit about what do you think is going on inside of there? And what can we do to release the grip of these parties on the people that we elect to Congress? Because these parties are bought by corporations.
Yeah, it's a solid question, and we always support our male men and male women. Shout out, they're the real boys in blue. And the Democratic Party is a joke. It's a joke, and like you said, and like Brianna Joy Gray always points out, to a person who's struggling, or to a person who's being bombed in Syria, or to a single mother who doesn't have enough money to provide food for her kids. Like, it doesn't matter what the intentions are of someone like AOC or Ilhan Omar or Jamal Bowman or Mark Pocan, whoever, right? It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, they're not fighting for that single mother or for that person in Syria who just got bombed, or for whoever, right? It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, they're still going to vote for this COVID bill without actually fighting for a $15 minimum wage, or for $2,000 stimulus check, or $400 or $600 weekly unemployment benefits. And you guys brought up the stat about how apparently this bill is supposed to magically lift like half of impoverished children out of poverty. And I was like, damn, like that's pretty crazy that this bill alone is going to do that. And I was talking about it on one of my streams, and Justin Jackson was in the stream, and he goes hard with the details. Justin Jackson, for those of you who don't know, actually an advisory council member, right, for the People's Party, and NFL running back. And he was in the stream and he was listening, and I'm like, how does this bill lift half of the kids who are impoverished right now out of poverty? And he sent a breakdown in the YouTube chat as to how this actually is happening. And in the United States, if you have a family of four and that family of four is making $27,000 per year, that's technically not impoverished. So I don't know about you guys, if you could live in a family of four off $27,000, but I think I would be pretty hard strapped to make it in that situation. And I think that should be considered living in poverty. I think we just have a very distorted perception of what is poverty and what isn't in this country. And it's given Joe Biden the out to be able to say that he's like lifted everyone out of poverty. But in actuality, he really hasn't lifted people out of the dire economic situations that they're all in. But regarding the squad, I almost feel as though what took place was Nancy Pelosi acting like she had established good rapport with the squad in their first 2 years. She did like those glossy Rolling Stone cover shots with the squad. She made them feel important, gave them some committee assignments, even offered AOC, the climate emergency committee assignment in the House of Representatives in her first year in office. So I think AOC kind of like was gassing them all up, was like, respect to you guys. You did just unseat the fourth ranking Democrat in the House, respect, credit where credit is due, and kind of made the squad feel as though they had more power than they did. And then when it came time for a complete, Democratic takeover of Congress and the White House, and the squad thought that they had more leverage than they actually, carried without fighting for what they believed in, Nancy Pelosi just, screwed everyone over, screwed the squad over, took away the committee assignments, took away the $15 minimum wage, took away everything. And I honestly am of the belief that the squad didn't want to fight. I think that they didn't want to fight. It's not that they're corporate Democrats. It's not like they're taking corporate money or anything like that. It's just they didn't want to fight because they thought they had that good rapport with Nancy Pelosi. And then they're so naive. They didn't even realize that Nancy Pelosi doesn't actually, mess with them. Like Nancy Pelosi does not like you. She'll never like you. She'll never like progressives. She didn't get into the position that she's in today by being nice to progressives or being like kind to people. She got there by, playing hardball, being strategic and screwing people over. And she's very good at that. And she executed this, Democratic takeover in 2020 quite well. And she's getting what she wants done. And I think the progressives right now, the so-called progressives in the Democratic Party, are in the weakest position they've ever been in. And it's on full display for all of us to watch, for all of the corporate Democrats to watch as well. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for them. It's embarrassing for everyone who believed in them. And I think this goes to show that you can't ever give up the fight. You have to continue fighting. And even when you do that, your odds of winning are few and far between if you're operating within the confines of the Democratic Party.
If we believe that, Joe Manchin can single-handedly hold the Democratic Party hostage, and say, no, $100 off unemployment benefits, no $15 minimum wage for you poor, Kirsten Sinema,
For you poor.
Though, if we believe that this one person has that much power, well, guess what? There's 6 members of the squad. There's 100 members of the CPC, Congressional Progressive Caucus. There's a Bernie Sanders in the Senate, you know, and, these individuals, theoretically have the same ability to put their foot down and say, no, I demand that the $15 minimum wage be included in it. Otherwise you don't have my support for it, but the ultimate responsibility for me, I think falls on, then you can ask yourself, is that because it's the squad that they don't have enough integrity, or, is that the question, what's going on here? Why is it? And, you could make that argument, but I don't think that that's really the case. I think that's like a truncated argument. The argument is, why is it that anybody that goes into the Democratic Party ends up, moderating their positions? That's what we have to look at. Kirsten Sinema, she used to be a progressive. She used to be a strong progressive. There was this tweet circulating about how she was $15 minimum wage, that's a no-brainer. Minimum wage increase, no-brainer, From that to this individual who has this Marie Antoinette moment, that so callously turns down a living wage for millions of people, that is what happens time and time again. Because when you're thrown into the Democratic Party, you enter this incentive structure, for anyone who believes in social pressures and sociology, you're thrown into this incentive structure where everything that you need to do to survive and to ascend in that party is to befriend the neoliberal committee heads, to befriend the party leadership, to try to defend from, DCCC challenges. So you're in this machine, you're in this assembly line where everything is moderating you and is trying to mold you into something that you are not, even when you went in. And that's the real problem at the heart of this. The real problem is that machinery. It's not them. We could replace them with other people and it would happen to them too. And as someone who worked in the Democratic Party on campaigns, I've felt that pressure to conform myself. And it's something that as human beings, we have to acknowledge. So what we have to do and what we believe in is remove that machinery, remove that corrupting framework, remove that corporate funded framework that is the Democratic and the Republican parties, and instead put in a completely people-powered, 100% people funded, no corporate money political party. And that's the People's Party.
Absolutely. Well said. Before I give my thoughts on this, does anybody else have anything to say on these?
Yes, I definitely don't think they, okay, so I agree and disagree with a lot of things that I heard right now. I think, just personally, I don't think you, come on, you cave in on something that you campaigned on. You caved in. You had a chance to force the vote. You had a chance to withhold your support for Nancy Pelosi in January, and you didn't. And you didn't. That should tell you exactly how the rest of the next 4 years is going to go with the Democratic Party. No kidding. I don't see you see them, they're going to be championing every single wonderful thing that you policy you could. They're going to be tweeting about it. And when it comes to a vote, they're not going to do shit about it. They're not. And it does. And you know what? They're not innocent players in this game. You should sit back and think, what if they're psychopaths? What if they're sociopaths? What kind of narcissists are they? Stop acting like they're normal. They're not normal. They're not normal. They're not. Come on. They're some of the most powerful, most influential people right now who have let down Americans. And what the goal is to dismantle healthcare in the United States and give it to state by state by state by state. And how much longer is that going to go? So I think they, why didn't they go down? Why didn't they go down in flames as heroes and vote and hold back their vote? Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they do it? You want to know why? Because they want to stay in the game and they want access and their dreams of being a president one day. So I feel that I will never, ever, you've heard me say this, I will never give a Democrat my money. I will never give a Republican my money. And I don't even know how I can go further. Like I'm going to be very cautioned when I give my money to anybody right now, because there's a whole lot of people that need help. And when I hear somebody that once upon a time I loved said that there's a strategy that I don't understand, my head's snapping back. And you already told me that you're going to disappoint me. When somebody says you're going to disappoint me, when I dated and somebody said, yeah, sometimes, I'm a dick or whatever, believe them. Believe them. You're only going to get more. You're only going to keep getting more from these people that we elected, that we thought they're young, they're brown, they're women. They must be on the right side of history. Well, it just turns out they can look like me and be an asshole. And I have to figure that out. I'm not an asshole. But anyways.
Stef makes a good point. I'll say this quickly. Stef makes a really good point because we send out like thousands of texts a day to see who can donate to the campaign. And out of that batch of texts, I get, no lie, like about, 20 to 30 texts back saying, I no longer support the Democrats. I gave to AOC. I gave to Rashida. I gave to all these people. And I feel like I feel so disappointed and I don't have any more hope left. Literally just yesterday, I texted and I said, honestly, I completely understand. Number one, I want to say it makes it so hard for me, right? The lady responded to me. She said, how can I know you won't do the same? I said, honestly, there's nothing that I can tell you that will make you believe me. I have to literally prove it to you. I can tell you I don't want to be a career politician because I don't. I can tell you that I don't care about the power. All I care about is the people. But that's going to go in one ear, not the other. You want to see me do it. And I said, honestly, I'm not going to beg you to donate. I just want you to just don't give up hope, because there are good people out there that are running, and you have to sift through some of, the fraudulent people to get to the real ones. So don't give up hope.
I want to add one more thing quickly. What I was referring to with them being naive was them being so naive to think that they could actually like make backroom deals even with Pelosi. Like I think they're narcissists.
We got this, guys.
I think if you I mean, I think everyone here knows that I'm no fan of the squad, and I don't give them any
why do you love them so much?
Any credit for anything they do. But I think that they are seriously naive to think that they could actually like, negotiate for power or something, and that Pelosi wouldn't screw them over at the end of the day, which is what we saw happen.
Yeah.
They were on the cover of Rolling Stone together.
Winning.
Together. I don't think they reached. Yeah. And the Rolling Stone is just like this wonderful, like, oh, it's the Rolling Stone. It must be cool. It must be hip. Let's have these dynamic, diverse women on the cover with the old lady of power. Wow. We're going to make Nancy Pelosi look great. They were all in it together. They knew what they were. It was an exchange. That's how I see it. Yeah.
So look, this is where I'm at with this. When the time came around for Force the Vote, we told them, look, you are not going to get what you think you're going to get out of playing nice. This is the plan and the strategy that we need to take to actually get the things that we need. We need to use the leverage that we have and force votes. They didn't want to listen. They had their own plan and they did it their way. So what I have to say now is, you tried it your way. How did that work out? And I'm not being an asshole. I'm not being a smartass. I'm genuinely asking, how did it work out trying it your way? So maybe it's time for you to consider that there's something about the party that you're in that makes it really easy for you to not have any leadership skills. And again, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but you didn't have the leadership to step up and do what needed to be done. So maybe now that you've tried it your way and you realize that you didn't get your committee seats, that you didn't get your $15 minimum wage, and that all you have gotten is embarrassed by the corporates, Democrats, and Republicans that you're trying to work with while ignoring your base, maybe now it's time to do some reflection. Because for me, this is a crucial moment in what is going to be the history of these progressives. They have a fork in the road right now, and they need to choose if they are going to continue down this path and be like every other politician, or if they are going to finally decide to break off and do something different. So my advice to them would be to seriously reflect on all of the failures that have come their way because of their choices, and to maybe consider that it is time to go to the People's Party, that it is time to actually have the balls to defect and stand up for what you said you believed in, for what you said you believed in. So that's all I'm going to say to the squad is, your shit didn't work. So you need to decide if you're going to keep going down this path or if you're going to go back to the people who got you elected and actually do what you're supposed to do. And that's on them. So really quick, before we move to the final segment, you got to go. You got to go. Stef has to go.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Everybody tune into the Jimmy Dore show tonight.
Yes. I'll see you later, folks. It was terrific. I'm looking forward. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so I want to touch on foreign policy really quick, and then we'll do our final thing. Because we don't talk about foreign policy enough, and Biden had time to send some fun bombs out before help ever got to Americans. Not only that, we backed out of the Iran nuclear deal under Trump. And then when Biden comes into office, instead of saying, I apologize that our previous president broke a treaty that our country had with yours, let's work together to get back into this. Instead of that, he antagonizes Iran. And then Jen Psaki comes out the other day and gives us the wonderful news that normalizing relations with Cuba, where I was born and where I have family, is not currently one of Biden's top priorities. News that I had to give to my aunt, who is in Cuba right now, yesterday, and had to deal with telling her that, sorry, but you're still not going to be able to get access to food or medicine. It is crazy over there right now. Even if you have money, which they don't, they can't find food. So for him to say that that's not one of his top priorities right now. So I just want to jump into foreign policy for a few minutes. Jackson, you covered a lot on this. The bomb dropping that was apparently, super important and super urgent even before getting Americans help. What do you think about that?
They dropped one thing I found interesting about the attack on the Iranian-backed militia in Syria was that when the media was reporting on it, they didn't ever identify, with the exception of one article, they didn't ever identify what type of bombs were dropped on that militia. I found that to be really interesting because during Trump's presidency, you'd always hear what type of bombs they were dropping, cruise missiles or Tomahawk missiles or, whatever. Like they would always identify to make it sound more scary. But it was very difficult from a journalistic perspective to try and identify what type of bombs were being dropped and how expensive those were. They dropped 7 bombs. Each one was 500 pounds and each one costed about $40,000 to manufacture, just the bombs, not including
staff or actually getting it up. Yeah.
Yeah. All that. So they chose to prioritize something like that over getting Americans $2,000 stimulus checks, which is just mind-boggling. And, in addition to bombing that Iranian-backed militia in Syria, that militia, which you'll never hear identified with its actual title, is a group called the Popular Mobilization Front, or units, it's referred to as the PMF or PMU. And this is the group, it's a broad coalition of fighters, but this is the group that protected Damascus in Syria from being overtaken by ISIS or Daesh. And without them, there would have been, mass beheadings in Damascus, a major city. And Biden chose to bomb them, which is just crazy. But if you don't continue this perpetual endless threat of there being Al-Qaeda militants or ISIS militants who might one day threaten American democracy, if you don't continue that sort of fear in the hearts of Americans by sometimes even killing the people who are fighting ISIS, like Joe Biden did in Syria, then you'll never be able to continue the military-industrial complex and continue funding these bombings and creating new weaponry and F-35, F-22, F-16 programs. So it's all a moneymaker, and it's disappointing, but not surprising to see that they're prioritizing this over giving Americans much-needed aid.
Yeah, I always find it hilarious how quickly they move for everything that is not important. Mm-hmm. Like everything that's just bullshit. They move so fast, but as soon as you actually want anything important from them, like, I don't know, I got a thing at 2 and then I got a brunch. I don't know what, like they're always busy when it's so, Nick, I want
Wall Street bailout in history.
Yeah.
2 weeks, $750 billion, military budget, again, no questions asked. We're going to put $600, 14.
I don't know. That's a little tough.
We're going to debate over that. Yeah. It's like, oh, that's so strenuous. We got to debate over that endlessly.
I want to ask you specifically, Nick, this bothers me more and more every day. So, what is the People's Party willing to do specifically to help the Cuban people? I'm not talking about the Cuban government. We can still have disagreements with them. But what is the People's Party willing to do to actually end the embargo? Because at this point, this is inhumane. And I don't know how to tell my family that I can't send them money. I can't send them food. I can't even top up her cell phone anymore. So they're cutting off everything and people are starving.
Well, in our interim platform is to normalize relations and end that embargo. I mean, the embargo is called out basically by the entire world community. It's censured by literally every country except for the US and Israel every year by the UN. And so absolutely, it's a human rights travesty and it needs to end. And that's something that, going into our founding convention later this year, that's something that people are going to be deliberating in the creation of our platform.
Christine, your family's Haitian.
Yes.
And so you understand where I'm coming from. Can you tell?
I understand where you're coming from because regardless of where my family's from, I live in
Florida.
Forget it. I went to a predominantly Cuban high school.
Yeah.
My goddaughter's Cuban. So like
can you educate people a little bit? Because I can say it all day, but I want somebody to back me up who actually knows because their family's from there. Can you educate people a little bit on genuinely how much people in these islands and in the Caribbean struggle?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I can talk about Haiti forever, especially now that they are fighting to get rid of their president. But this is the thing. There's a different level of poverty, right? So we have like the people in Haiti, we have poverty here, right? Which is bad. It's horrible. But there's still resources. There's nonprofits. There's things around that we can maybe try to tap into. When you're talking about Cuba, or when you're talking about Haiti, you're talking about any of these countries that don't have resources they can tap into, you are talking about walking by a body on the street. No lie. Like just walking by and seeing there is a literal dead body on the street. It's probably a child. So, and the governments of these countries, I wonder, did they ever have good intentions? I just want to know, how did you start off? How did you convince people?
They probably started off how AOC started off.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, because
I know
it's not mattering when you're corrupted.
Yes, and then little by little. So the other day when I was on your show and I finally made a statement about lifting the embargo, I had a friend that watched it and said, "Thank you, Christine. I know that this has been a struggle for you." And it has been, because when I first started running for office, I want you to remember, I'm a regular person. I'm a mother of two. Okay? Like politics was not something that I ever said, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is my path in life. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to an Ivy League and then I'm going to run." No, none of that. So I'm just a regular person. I said something about the Palestinians on Twitter. I got eaten alive. And so ever since then, I have been reluctant to sort of like speak out about groups of like, if it would affect a group that I'm very close to. Right. So in South Florida, there's a huge Jewish community. So they all got on me. "Well, how are you supposed to represent us?" And I said, "Listen, let's not even get into that. Okay. Because one doesn't have to do with the other." But when I mentioned about lifting the embargo, my friend said, "Thank you. I know you've been struggling with this. I know you've been afraid to say it. You got called out and you said it. And you have to understand, it's not about the government. It's about the suffering. It's about the suffering of the people and that what that connection would bring." So I and then I had to think about my family. Do you know? So my family in Haiti, we send clothes, we send money, we send whatever. My aunt flies, my grand aunt flies back and forth. We pack her with stuff, whatever we can. That you can't do that for the Cuban people. You can't do that. So we have a large group of people that want to fight and help their family, and they can't. I can't imagine where I would be if I couldn't help my family in Haiti. I don't know what I would do. My grand aunt has an orphanage there. We make sure that everyone in the orphanage is taken care of. How could we do that if the shoe was on the other foot? You know what I mean? So that's what I want people to think of on a humanitarian level. We're not talking politics. Let's talk human to human. There's no, like, it only makes sense to lift the embargo. So
yeah,
I want to thank you for calling me out, because sometimes you need to get called out. You do, like,
I wanted to push you on that because I knew that you would come to the right conclusion, because it's like, I'll make it really simple for you. It is immaterial what your opinion of Fidel Castro is. He has nothing to do with what we're talking about. It is immaterial what your opinion of the Castro regime is, his brother, whatever. Doesn't matter. We're not talking about that. We are talking about the fact that in the middle of a global pandemic, we can't even get medicine to regular people who do not run the country or the government. And that is just wrong. It's very simple. It's just wrong. We don't have to agree with how they run their country. A lot of countries don't agree with how we run our country, but we would not be okay with being embargoed by the whole freaking world. Okay? Yeah. So it's very simple. This is a simple subject, and anyone who wants to try to take it to, but Castro, or but this, or but that, it's not about that. The Cuban government still has electricity, still has food, still has medicine, still has water. This only hurts the Cuban people, and it perpetuates the story that they've been told about the US.
Yes.
We're just perpetuating that story that they've been told about us. And that's why you go to Cuba and it's fucking patria o muerte. You know, motherland or death. That's where they're at, because we won't back the fuck off. So, you know, it's just, we got to do something to help people. There's a freaking genocide in Yemen going on, and we got to talk more about foreign policy. So thank you guys so much for touching on that. So the last thing I want to talk about today is we talked about what Biden has done in the last 50 days, kind of an overview. Now I want to ask you, Nick, what has the People's Party been up to in the last 50 days?
Awesome. And so we have been working on building locally, building state hubs, building local hubs, and registering the party. And so we've registered in Maine, we've registered in Colorado, we've registered in California, and we've registered in Ohio. And now we're working on ballot access in those states, and we're working on ballot access and to register in many other states at the same time, because we're working towards getting on the ballot in all 50 states ahead of 2024 to run a presidential campaign then, and to run a slate of congressional candidates in 2022. And so that's something that we're also getting into now, is we are looking for candidates, and we are putting together a survey.
Florida.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, speaking of amazing candidates, we got them right here. And we're going to be opening it up to people to nominate amazing candidates like Christine to be a part of the People's Party and to join us and to run with us. And then we're going to be putting forward that slate. We're creating a whole kind of infrastructure for, as a political party, to support those candidates. And so to provide them training on all of the basics, you know, creating a website, graphic design, creating a logo, you know, getting started with your campaign in terms of the field operation, the communications, you know, the message that you're going to deliver. What do the people in your district need most? You know, what is hurting the people in your district the most? You know, opposition research on your candidate, everything that goes into, you know, building a party and providing that training and that infrastructure to support them. And that means creating a whole kind of like ecosystem of organizers across the country and people who are going to be able to work with us. We don't want, you know, not necessarily just on one campaign, but people who are going to be able to work on multiple campaigns, who are going to be able to work with the party, you know, from now on. There's this whole kind of like, you know, universe around the Democratic Party of like all their consultants and, you know, people who go from campaign to campaign. And it's like, we want to do that the right way. It's like, we want to have people who are able to participate, gain experience, and going from campaign to campaign with us and sharing that knowledge and expertise with candidates. And the same thing with building up basically a network of organizers across the country in the state and local hubs to be able to support those candidates and those campaigns. And so that's really exciting. And I think that, you know, once we break through in 2022, people are going to realize that this is a different time. And we elect people to Congress, you know, and they're there, and our members of Congress go there, you know, they go there and they're not looking for committee assignments. They're just going to use the bully pulpit. They're simply going to put forward bills that is, this is what we need to do, you know, jobs guarantee bill, universal basic income, just put the bills and use those as rallying cries, use them as organizing tools, because that's the power that you have when you're in Congress to do that. You have this enormous power, power to command the national bully pulpit, and just a few people or even one person has the ability to do that to a tremendous degree and show enormous contrast with the Democratic and Republican parties.
Yeah, and you guys have also been supporting a lot of unions and like protests, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we did our members voted to endorse the Amazon workers who in Bessemer, Alabama. There's about 5,800 of them in the warehouse there who are looking to unionize, and it'll be the first unionized Amazon warehouse in the United States if that passes. The vote is happening right now. The National Labor Relations Board granted them the ability to start that vote to unionize. And this is a community, it's a poor Black and brown community that's been like just absolutely devastated by the offshoring of jobs and by the destruction of the rail industry and the steel industry. And so it's just like one of these, what you think of when you think of the Rust Belt, it's one of those suburbs of Birmingham, Alabama. It's horrific what's happened. And Amazon comes in and preys upon these communities. And they make an enormous amount, Jeff Bezos, millions of dollars an hour, and they won't pay their workers or provide them the basic PPE to survive. And so we voted to endorse them in creating that union, and our members also we decided to raise funds to support them, and raised about $4,000 for them and for struggling Texas families each over the weekend a couple weekends ago, and also went out and organized with the Southern Workers Assembly and the workers at the Amazon who were fighting to unionize that Amazon warehouse in actions of solidarity across the country, more than 50 actions of solidarity that we joined with the Southern Workers Assembly to participate in. So yeah, those are the kinds of things that we're engaged in now, because that's what we believe that the People's Party should stand for.
I think that's great. I think that's exactly what we should be focusing on, is these efforts to help workers and really standing behind our communities and being there for those protests and being there, and doing fundraisers and trying to help people. And so I think that's fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to start closing the show out. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go one by one and allow you to give us some final thoughts and tell people where they can find you. Okay, because that's super important. So Jackson, let me start with you. Give us any final thoughts that you have, and then tell us how people can find you and follow you.
Final thoughts. Power to the People's Party. And I also want to give a shout out to the crazy news that just broke in Bolivia today. We're talking about foreign policy. We need to focus on what's happening in Bolivia. You guys got to check that out. They just found out that the UK was instrumental, like the UK government was instrumental in the coup that took place in Bolivia in 2019. And now there's a whole storm of of allegations and charges that are being made against the right wing in Bolivia. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check that out. I might be doing a stream about that later. And if you would like to tune in for that potential stream, you can follow me on YouTube. You can just type in my name, Jackson Hinkle, and it'll come up. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram and all that as well. And support your independent content creators. Be sure to like this stream that we're on right now and subscribe to the Eynelys Show.
Thank you. Christine, any final thoughts, and tell people how they can support your campaign and where they can find you?
Yes. So I want to let everyone know that just because you voted for someone or maybe you supported a certain party does not mean that you can't call them out when they're not doing what they are supposed to do. Okay, so I want everyone to understand that you have a right to hold everyone accountable, even if you voted for them. Do not forget that. Don't let anyone make you feel bad for it. I don't feel bad for it. I'm hoping that we can close out and I can take some of these. I set up to take hot shots, okay?
Yeah, she was gonna take shots for how many lies. Do it.
Oh. Okay, well, first, you can go to www.christineforcongress.org. You can find me on Twitter, Christine FOR24, and Instagram and Facebook, Christine for Congress. I need help, though. I can't do this without you. You have to tell me. I need you to just call out any lies that Biden has already told.
He said $2,000.
Hold on. Let me show the shots.
She's gonna take shots of hot sauce for every lie Biden told.
Oh no.
Okay.
So
don't do that to yourself.
let me know when you're
Okay,
ready.
I've got milk. You
Okay.
ready?
$2,000 check.
Yo.
Oh.
Fucking
Immediately.
free the kids in cages. Oh my god.
That has to be terrible.
Give me another one.
Public option.
Public option. That's a good one. Wow, you're really doing it right now. This is wild. You're gonna be sick after this, Christine.
Damn, Christine.
Feel the burn. What's another one?
Feel the burn. Yes, feel the burn.
$50 wage.
Trump tax cuts. Get rid of the Trump tax cuts.
Get rid of
Still
the
need
Trump
you in
tax cut.
Congress, Christine.
Oh my god.
Okay, I didn't throw up.
I'm done.
Okay. Let's have another one. You're
Fine,
dying right now. We got
Jackson, I like you, okay?
we gotta wait this out. We gotta make it burn. That's what they do on Hot Wings. You guys watch that show? They talk in between.
Yes, I've seen that. Yes,
No.
I've seen that.
Can you just give it to me already?
I'm sorry. What is it? What is another one? What is another one?
Kids in cages.
Kids in cages.
No more kids
No
in
more
cages.
kids in cages.
Send it.
This is true.
I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. Are you on your last one? All right.
All right.
One more. Yemen. We're gonna end the war in Yemen. There we go. That's
Yeah,
your
Devin,
last.
that's your last one. Woo!
Oh, that was gross.
Yeah.
Feel the burn. I need everyone to feel the burn. This is what we get when we don't elect progressives in the White House. I'm crying. You
That
can
was
find
impressive.
me on
I'll
social
never
media.
do anything like that. That was
I'm
impressive.
gonna send you a clip of that, Christine, so you can post it.
Earned a congressional seat.
We really want to feel the lies, that was awesome.
Christine's a
Thanks,
real
Joe.
one.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Nick, give us some final thoughts and tell us where people can find you and the People's Party.
You can find us at peoplesparty.org. You can come and you can join us. You can volunteer. You can help us build the party, because it's so clear that the Democrats, they're giving us less than even the Republicans gave us. And so, that's the bottom line here, is that this cycle of these two parties in the big picture, taking us more towards authoritarianism, towards oligarchy, towards empire, that's got to end. We got to break that cycle, and so this is the time to do it. There was just a poll, it just showed that there's a record number of Americans who want a major new party. For the first time ever, half the country identifies as independent. There was a poll showing that as well too. So it's like, something's got to give, and this is it. We have to start providing for the people. We have to stand up, and we have to build an entire party that is free of corporate money. And that's what we're doing. So come and join us. And I'm thrilled to have these amazing folks to do it with.
Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Everybody, this has been the latest episode of the Eynelys Show. Thank you so much for watching. Check out the Jimmy Dore show tonight. Nick Brana is going to be on there. He's going to be talking with Jimmy and Stef about the People's Party. Go to peoplesparty.org and look, my final thoughts. This is an olive branch to the squad and the progressives in Congress. If you still care at all, even a little bit about the things that you ran on, come to the People's Party. Okay? Here you will have the freedom to actually fight for the things that you believe in. You will have a support system that will allow you to be brave and bold Make that choice. Do not choose to stay and become just another politician. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Share this video, and we will see you next time.